And now it's time for sports.
Duff Tyler.
What would you say you do here?
He's the hardest working man in sports.
I just love listening to Duff on the radio.
You know him?
Well, hell yes.
You're addicted to him.
Yes, I am.
You want him.
I'm not that desperate.
He's Duff Tyler.
It's Duff time.
Welcome, everyone, to A Duff Said. Thank you so much for hitting the play button on your favorite listening device of choice from wherever you listen to podcasts. As you may have just heard, I am Duff Tyler, and this is my new A Duff Said theme song. Now, if that does not get you pumped up for this show, maybe the lineup will. This is my high school football preview show for the 2021 season here in the state of Michigan. I recently caught up with Coach Tony Patritto from Rochester Adams and the new head coach at Southfield A&T, Aaron Marshall. Now, these are new guests to my podcast, so I'm excited for you to get to know them. And I also caught up with some of our regulars, guys like John Blackstock of Lake Orion and Kevin Townsend out in Freeland. But this episode starts from the top of the mountain. That is where you will find the West Bloomfield Lakers. Now, they won it all in Division I last season, and they're looking to do the same this year. Tyrice Grice has taken over the program as head coach after Ron Bellamy went out to join Jim Harbaugh's staff out in Ann Arbor. Coach Grice has been the defensive coordinator for a long time with this program. I caught up with him this week to see how his team is getting ready to defend its title. My conversation with Tyrice Grice starts now. What was the mood like on that first day of practice when the kids showed up knowing that they were state champions?
Oh, yeah, the mood was outstanding. I think the kids, they know the target is on their back. They're ready to get going because we have a lot of guys that's first-year starters this year. And so they feel that's their opportunity, and they want to push it towards repeating as state champ. So the mood was always is a good mood. I was in a good mood. We always in a good mood, and we're excited about getting ready for the season.
You have been with the program now for the last 9 seasons. This is your first year as the head coach. What was that whole experience like for you, having been with West Bloomfield for almost a decade and to be a part of a state championship winning team?
I mean, it truly was a 9-year journey. When I first came here in Bell, we talked about a lot about the vision we want to take the program, and we model programs like Cass Tech and looked at Clarkston and see what their best practices were, and we try to implement what they do good. But it was a seed that was sown 8-9 years ago. We had some young guys that decided to stick it out and not go to Brother Rice, to Orchard Lake down the street, the Farmington Hills Harrison. Those athletes decided to stick it out and come and stay in their own community and stay in their school. So that was a journey that we took over the years, and we decided the greatest satisfaction when we reflect back at it, winning that state championship it was all worth it.
You planted the seeds 9 years ago, and now they have grown, and now you have a culture at West Bloomfield, and you have a winning culture at West Bloomfield High School. What is it like to have been a part of this and to see it turn into something very special?
Oh, yeah, to be a part of it, it was it's real personal. And you see those young men who you saw at the middle school when they wanted to come to West Bloomfield, to see them as freshmen, to see them as sophomore, and now you see them as juniors and seniors. They're on varsity. You just see the seeds that was planted, where we make sure that our middle school, our middle school, our 9th grade, and our 10th grade run the same system. And when we say our fruits of our labor, that's what we're talking about. So when they come up to varsity, it's a smooth transition for those young men. And So we are excited about it. I'm excited about it. We got a great staff. So that's another thing that was part of this whole process. And what people don't realize is that our staff been around just as long as I have, where we 8, 9 years. And some guys been there 11, 12 years. So we took our lumps early on, and we paid our dues, and we learned from our mistakes, not only as with players, but as a coaching staff. And we've been knocking on this championship door for the last 4 or 5 years. We finally got it a hump, and we just want to continue that legacy that Bell put in place. And like we have a motto that one of our coaches said, that same crew, same ship, different captain. So we're excited about that.
And that is so perfect because your mascot is the Lakers. So you've got like an anchor in place there. So you are already anchored in place. And in football, they say it's the next man up. When one guy leaves or he gets injured, somebody has to take his spot. So it's the next guy up. So when Coach Ron Bellany moved on from the program, it was all like you just like moved another seat up in the table. You just took over the next spot. Everybody just moved up. And now here you are in place to make another run for a state championship. So I want to look back on that state championship run that you guys did put together last season. You guys only had one loss last season, and that was to Clarkston in week 3. That was a game that was televised across the state. It was on what was then known as Fox Sports Detroit, and I actually got a chance to watch that game on TV. You guys lost that game 24-21 in overtime. You didn't lose another game after that. And with the exception of the Belleville game in the state semifinals, no other team scored more than 14 points against you guys the rest of the way. You were the defensive coordinator for that team, so I know that had to make you happy. What was it about that Clarkston game that just turned everything around for you guys?
The physicality of the game. We knew that I saw some things in our players that were in the trenches, when we knew that we had to step that game up, and we made our adjustments in what they were doing to us on that one drive where they went 9 minutes, close to 9 minutes on an 11-play drive. When we were really burnt out coming on the sideline, we couldn't really see what the adjustments were because right on the very next play, we had turned the ball over on offense. So by the time we got on the field, we was on the field almost that whole third quarter. We was in the third quarter. And that I think once we made adjustments, see what they were doing, we made our changes and we kind of shut it down. But that game right there brought the toughness out of us. I think that, and we went forward. And we learned from a lot of our mistakes. When we look back at that game, it was some responsibilities that wasn't done, and we learned from it. And going forward, we really, as a coaching staff, we went into the really focus on the mistakes that they made as opposed to the positive things they made. So that was I think that was a turning point for us, is to go back and look at that game and say, hey, if we did this, we should have shut that team out, and that's how we felt.
And you rode that game all the way to the state finals at Ford Field. And I know for a lot of your guys, they've probably been to Ford Field many times in the past to see Lions games or other state finals games for high school football in the state of Michigan. But when your guys got to set foot on the field, on the turf at Ford Field, and to be a part of that atmosphere, what was it like not just for them, but for you as a member of the staff at West Bloomfield to experience all that?
The staff, we were there in 2017. So 2017, we lost to Clarkston 3-2 when we beat them 38-3 in the regular season. So our attitudes and our mindset at going into that game as a coaching staff, because now we had a whole different team. Only one who played on that team was Donovan Edwards in his freshman year. So going back into that game, we learned from our mistakes, and we made sure that we prepared a little bit better. And because of that experience, we was more relaxed as a coaching staff, and we made sure our players were relaxed. And I think that was a big difference, because that atmosphere and playing the state championship is one of a lifetime experience, and to be able to do that twice, whether we win or lose, that was a great experience for the whole coaching staff and for our players. And we had an opportunity to play a lot of guys that's returning this year in our players, and we got guys like Amir Herring, who's first time, and And so those guys, the experience that they have is just unbelievable, and we're excited about that.
And you know what? I remember that 3-2 game a couple years ago. I remember turning it on and thinking, this is a baseball score. This isn't a football score. But then I was reminded
it was a defensive game. So
it was.
And somebody told me, like, in 2 championship games, and you only gave up 3 points. Like, I didn't think of it that way. And I was like, wow, but we pride ourselves in taking and shutting teams out at West Bloomfield. And 2015 team, we had a great defensive team that year. They had 5 shutouts. And so we wanted to break that record, and we were excited about that record. In fact, we won the game 56-3. And the last few plays of the game, they scored a kick the field goal, and our player, the defensive guy, was so upset. You would think we lost the game.
That's the right attitude to have.
Because on Saturdays, every Saturday when we shut a team out, I bring the defense donuts for a donut.
Yeah, see, I was just going to ask you, what's the reward for you guys if you do get a shutout? And you're telling me it's donuts? Where are they from?
Dunkin' Donuts. We bring a Dunkin' Donuts and milk. And on Saturday morning when we come in and watch film, and they look forward to it. And one day I almost forgot about it. One of the players called to remind me.
Yeah, I think this is a great commercial for Dunkin' Donuts. You can just say the West Bloomfield Lakers runs on Dunkin'.
Oh, yeah. It's down the street, so as I go to practice in the morning, I swing by and pick it up. And they know, you guys got a shutout today, so yes.
Yeah, they know. And they're probably prepared, too. They probably keep an eye on the box score the night before. But
yes.
And that's just being part of the community, too. And you've been a part of this community for more than a decade with West Bloomfield. Where did you coach before you got to West Bloomfield?
I was the head coach at Renaissance High School.
And what brought you to West Bloomfield?
Opportunity. I actually was going to go to Cass, and on Monday, a good friend of mine, Reggie Wynn, who runs Rising Stars at West Bloomfield, had an opportunity. And I live in West Bloomfield, and I'm like, I'm not going to drive. I was thinking about that long drive from West Bloomfield to downtown Detroit to go coach at Cass, and I said, no, I don't want to do that.
You were done commuting at that point.
Yeah, I was done commuting. My daughter goes to West Bloomfield, and I was like, you know what, let me stay in my community and do what I can do there, and we're excited about that.
And like you said, it's a great community. You live in that Orchard Lake area, too. A lot of great houses, beautiful atmosphere with the lakes that are out there. It's gorgeous out there. But what's it like to just be a part of the West Bloomfield community, to know that not only do you live there, but you get to see a lot of the kids that live in the area, and you get to be their coach, you get to be their mentor, you get to help guide them in life.
Yeah, it's exciting. You see them riding down the street on their bikes as you driving to practice, and you just honk their horn at them, and they nod back to someone. Coach is getting there, I better hurry up and get to practice. So you see those guys, and in the past, I had guys stop by. They live in the neighborhood. Coach, could you come by and sweep me up? I need a ride. And you try to not to do that too much, but every now and then, kids need a ride. You got to pick them up. So it's a rewarding experience, and to see the same officer riding down the street is also the same officer who's out there providing security at the game. So that's something that just, when you see all that and you put it all together, it's a great community to be part of.
How would you describe your coaching philosophy?
My philosophy is create a fun family atmosphere. Just be upfront and honest with your players, and create a atmosphere of where there's consequences and accountability for your actions, and I create a competitive environment. That's one of the things we try to do at West Bloomfield. We compete before we do our one-on-ones, we do tug of wars, and I told guys, if you're not having fun out here, don't come out. I want guys who want to love the game and want to support, be out here and be part of your brothers and sisters. Your brothers, and get out here and have fun out here, because that's the number one reason why a lot of guys quit football is because they're not playing, they're not having fun anymore. So, and I always tell coaches, we got to play a lot of guys because we have a lot of talent on our team. And so we got to make sure that these guys who prove that they should deserve playing time, we got to get them playing time, even if you have to share time with a starter. So that's always been my philosophy, is just create an environment where kids excited about coming to practice and not make excuses why they're not coming to practice. So I'm excited about that.
Once they put on the pads, what are your expectations for them?
Just continue to not lose their technique, continue to be aggressive, continue to be physical at the point of attack. And everything, sometimes we put the pads on, we forget everything that the coach taught you. And sometimes, we always want to make sure that you got to be fundamentally sound and use proper technique when we're tackling, use the proper technique when we're doing things we do as though we're not in pads. So that's one of the things that's a high priority to us.
As the reigning champs, you guys are coming in, obviously, with a bit of a target on your back. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be some teams on the schedule and in your conference that are definitely going to want a shot at you guys now. Some of those teams that you may have shut out a season ago, they probably are going to hear this and say, you know what, if they shut us out tonight, they're going to be getting donuts. So let's keep them from going to Duncan the next day. How do you hope that your guys will respond to that?
You know what, they on social media, they know that you can see a little signs target on their back. So they talk about it all the time. They know the pressure is on them to compete. Our goal is to come back and win defending state champs. We got talent. We got guys like Amir Herring, who's an offensive tackle for us, who's a dominant player, number 2 guard in the country. We got players like Dylan Tatum, ranked one of the top guys in the OAA in the state. In fact, he's going to be making his decision soon of where he's going to go. So I think a lot of the guys, they talk about it all the time. We got a mixture of young guys who've been in the fourth field and played in fourth field. Although we lost a lot of guys last year, but we was dominant with a lot of teams, so we had a lot of our backups who played last year and getting started minutes against other teams won. So now it's their opportunity. And I told them all the time. I tell them, I said, yeah, we was dominant playing the state championship. This guy played the state championship. Now it's your turn. So why shouldn't you? So they hungry for it, and it's a little bit different because these guys, they want to be starters in the state championship as opposed to sitting on the sideline watching and waiting for the opportunity. Now they have the opportunity.
Who are some of the younger guys that are new to the program on the varsity level? Who are some of the guys that we need to keep an eye out for that weren't necessarily a part of last year's team but are looking to step up to that next level?
Oh, yeah. Kenneth Jones, running back, we call him Jaws. He's a multifaceted back. He can catch out the backfield. He can run the ball kind of shifty. He's going to be a good player. Some young guys that came off of freshman. We got Brandon Davis Swain is DN. He's about 6'4", 240 pounds. Have about 7 offers, and he didn't start for us last year, but he got meaningful minutes. And so we expect him to step his game up. And we have some guys, some young guys at corner who's Jameer, freshman. He's a sophomore, and he's competing with a senior for some playing time or even pushing him for a starting opportunity. And his offseason has been tremendous. He got an offer from Michigan State and Purdue. And as far as young guys, and then we got Ryan Ross. He started as a freshman last year at left guard. He's about 6'2", 300 pounds, and we expect big things out of him. And he's going to, we're a young team this year. We're going to have a lot of, we're only returning 3 starters on defense and 6 on offense. So defensively, we're going to have a lot of first-year starters, and there's going to be some opportunities for those guys to step their game up. And then we have a linebacker, young guys that's coming up in our linebacker core that's it's going to be pretty good. So we're excited about it.
You open up the season at home against Rochester Adams this week, and it should be a big night for you and the fans. I mean, everybody should be excited. You're coming home. You get a banner to put up that says State Champs. I'm sure that's going to be a thrilling atmosphere for West Bloomfield. What are some of the goals that you have set for this game?
Number one, to win. You definitely want to win after that first game, after winning the state championship, and that sets the tone for the season. And number two, I think the players, we want to minimize our mistakes, and that's one of the things that I think we did a good job last year. We're going to make sure we continue that with penalties and turnovers. So I'm looking to really make sure we come away from that with as hard as say you can't get away from penalties, but we're not going back to having 15 penalties a game a few years back. If we get five or less, that's a good day. So you don't want any, but we also got to be realistic. And but I think just to be able to walk away with our fans satisfied with the product we put on the football field, that we can say, hey, we can put our heads up high and show, hey, we do got a good team this year, and we're going to have to prove it day one. And we just take it one game at a time right now.
Coach Tyrice Grice, thank you so much for making the time. I really appreciate it. I can't wait to see you guys in action. I'm going to try to make it out to a couple of your games this year. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys are going to be able to put together on the field this season. Best of luck to you and the Lakers this year.
I appreciate it.
Up next, we hear from the Lakers' opponent. Coach Tony Patritto of Rochester Adams joins us after we hear from the Lapeer Strike Zone.
Hey Joe, why is Duff Said your favorite podcast, man? Duff Said puts the respect on our name that we deserve, and hopefully this video shows that everybody that we deserve it. Come on, everybody!
Once again, I want to say thank you so much for hitting the play button on this podcast, and that includes two very special listeners, Michelle and Bethany. They recently became patrons of A Duff Said. Now, for as little as $2 a month, or $24 a year, you can help this show to continue to grow and provide the content that you enjoy. And if you become a patron of A Duff Said, we have got a lot of great gifts in store for you. We've got bumper stickers, we've got t-shirts. Heck, I'll even record your voicemail message. So if you're having trouble ever figuring out what to say, I'll say it for you. And that's A Duff Said. If you'd like to become a patron of A Duff Said, all you got to do is go to patron.podbean.com/A Duff Said. I am joined now by a man who has coached 19 seasons at Rochester Adams High School. Rochester Adams begins the season against the defending state champs West Bloomfield. Coach Tony Patritto is my guest now. Coach, it is a pleasure to finally meet you and have you on the show. Thank you so much for making the time for us.
Oh, it's a pleasure for me as well. Thanks, Duff.
Well, let's recap 2020 for you, because it was a crazy year for a lot of teams last season, a lot of ups and downs. And for you guys, you finished the season 3-4. What adjustments have you guys been working on with your team to get ready for 2021?
Well, one, embracing the opportunity to get back to some of the traditional things we did to prepare for our season that we could not do last year, whether it's going to Tony Nice's beer camp up at Montrose High School, which I've been doing since the late 80s with my teams, our summer workout conditioning program, and getting more stronger personal connection with the players in the off season is something we did not have last year. And it showed with really, really obvious negative impact early in the season. We were really bad early and made a lot of really simple mistakes. We weren't playing to an Adams standard, and it showed, and that explains the 3-4 record.
What were some things that you went over in practice with these guys now that you finally had that full time to work with them and, get to know them and explain all the X's and O's? What was that experience like for the guys to finally get to where you had a normal practice to prepare for this season?
What's really interesting, Duff, is, I've been doing this for so long that sometimes you make terrible assumptions as a coach, and what a terrible mistake by me. But our younger kids have no idea what the normal or standard of work ethic and execution level needs to be successful with our schedule. So for us, that part of that relationship building was, hey, listen, this is how it has to go. We can't control the talent and the coaching on the other side. I mean, we sure in hell can control ours. So we kind of had to reteach a level of work ethic and accountability to each other and to our coaches and to our other players alike in how we worked and how we prepare mentally and physically for the season. And that was kind of almost refreshing because even for coaches, it was kind of like an awakening. Things we kind of took for granted. You can't do that anymore. So we did as much conversation and talking about that as any. Our motto for our season is resilience, it's interesting. We had a different motto, and I was up early in the morning one time in end of June, and SC Feature did a special on Father's Day about Steve Gleason, who is a great player for the Saints, and he's kind of famous there for blocking a punt when New Orleans was making their comeback. And he's got Lou Gehrig's disease, he's got ALS, and his life expectancy was 3 years. Well, that was 10 years ago. And he still coaches his son and communicates with a computer that reads his eyes. And he's so positive. And I was sitting in my living room really moved by that, like an old sappy coach crying in his living room at 5 in the morning. We need to teach our kids some resilience and understanding how appreciative we need to be for the situation that we're in. And that kind of regrounded me, and I think hopefully it regrounded our team as we approach. I know you probably want more X and O stuff, but this was really, I think, in terms of high school sports, what we need to do a better job of approaching with our kids.
No, that was perfect. I love hearing that story because I know exactly what we were talking about with the blocked punt. That was actually the first game back in the Dome in New Orleans since the hurricane. So a lot of people in New Orleans were dealing with resilience. So that is a great teaching moment for your kids, one that has happened in their lifetime so that they can relate to that. So that is the perfect example to really mold young men's minds into saying that, you know, there are things out there that are way, way bigger than football that can help you prepare for life, but you just got to be, like you said, resilient. I like that. That is a great model.
Well, thank you.
You know, so many teams that I talk to, they have a motto, and then it sticks with me, and then I think to myself, okay, so I'm just going to ask them about, what's the motto for you guys? And then they change it every year, and so I got to learn right along with all the kids that are in high school football about what the mottos are. So I hope you stick with this one for a long time because that is a great example for young men to live by, resilience, and to know that, you know, there's somebody out there that, yeah, he made a great play, but look at what he's dealing with now. And he still, like you said, does it with a smile on his face. To me, that's what resilience is all about. So you picked a good one there. Do you put that on your T-shirts?
Actually, we did. And actually, we have one of our parents bought slides like the kids wear before they put their cleats on with an A with the swords on the top. And he's a great supporter of the program, and he's a great guy. And on the side of the slides, it says the word resilience. So every day they put their shoes on, they see that word.
You know what? This is my first time really getting to work with Rochester Adams because in the past, I've always dealt with teams in St. Clair County, in Macomb County, and then, of course, I did my time in mid-Michigan. So I did Flint, Saginaw, Midland, Bay City, and the Thumb, and all those teams. But this is my first time getting to work with the Rochester schools this year. And I got to say, you were talking about your logo. I really like your logo. It is so cool. You got the A with the swords. I really like that one. That one is one you guys got to stick with.
Yeah, well, that's not going anywhere if I have anything to say about it.
Yeah, because you probably have a history with that too, I'm sure. How long have you been a part of the Rochester community?
Well, we moved, my wife and I, we have 5 children. And actually, 4 of my children have attended Adams. 3 are graduated, and one's going to be a junior now, and I have a 5th grader down the road. But we've been up here since 2003. So it's been that whole ride of 19 years. We've been embedded. We live in the community, and we love the school district. And we love the people in the community.
Now, where were you before that?
I was actually the head coach at Bishop Foley High School, which I'm an alumni of Bishop Foley, and I was head coach there for 9 years. Back then, we were in the Central Division of the Catholic League, and we were a small little, we call it single B back then, if you remember those days. But we were playing in the Central Division with Brother Rice and De La Salle, and back then DePores, and that was great football. And I remember when I came up here to the OAA, and I was interviewing for this job, and they're like, are you prepared to handle the level of football in the OAA red and white? I'm like, well, I'm coming from the Central Division of the Catholic League from a Class B school. I think I have a good idea of what it takes to beat really good teams. It was hard to do, and you got to do a lot of things right, but that definitely prepared me for what I face now going against these great programs in the OAA.
Well, I got a story for you I want to share with you. You were telling me that you came aboard at Rochester Adams in 2003, At that time, I was still living in my hometown of Terre Haute, Indiana. So I'm a long way from Birmingham Brother Rice. But I knew about Birmingham Brother Rice because my senior year of high school, they made the 7.5-hour drive to play football at my high school. And I was like, who is this Brother Rice that I keep hearing about? Because they've been good for so long, for so many years. So they were nationally ranked when they came to our school. And naturally, they put a whooping on our team. But I always remembered Brother Rice. And then when I got here, that reputation was still intact. Everybody is still talking about Brother Rice. So you had a chance to compete against some of the very best. What did you learn about yourself as a coach when you were competing against some of the schools like a Brother Rice that play at such a high level?
It's a great question. And believe it or not, our first state championship was against Brother Rice in the finals back in the Silverdome. But Al Fracassa has been a friend of mine for, I hate to admit this now, probably 35, 40 years, who's a legendary Hall of Fame coach from Brother Rice. But I learned that you can't control the other sideline. If you spend too much time looking at all of these great players and guys that went to the NFL and all these Division I guys that went through all of those schools over the years and don't really focus on what you have staying next to you, then that's really kind of a waste of energy. I learned that you have to respect everyone you play, but fear no one, because in high school football, I think great teams can be great players if they have the growth mindset and the ability to believe in themselves no matter what the odds are. And being that underdog all those times in all those games, I relish that. I learned so much from that experience. And then I got to Adams, and they have had great success before I got here, and Coach Jagger and the staff that was here before me did a really good job. And for me, the first thing I had to do was like, listen, we need to understand what we're capable of and not worry about the other sideline. And if we take care of our business, great things will happen if you maintain a growth mindset and get after it and believe in yourself. And that's kind of carried over time. And to be honest with you, one of the blessings of COVID is it's kind of given a resurgence in me in terms of a growth mindset, and stop worrying about all these things that get in the way of you enjoying the experience and limiting your ability to have a vision for your team. So if I don't believe in our guys and thinking that we can be successful, they're sure not going to do it. So I've had kind of a renaissance and a rebirth when it comes to that approach that I had from all those years at Foley. Sorry, long answer. I apologize.
No, I loved hearing that. That was so good. I can hear the passion that you have for this job coming out, and that was a perfect answer. But when you got to Adams in 2003, you really did get those kids to buy into what you were saying, because they took you to the state finals and you won a state championship in your first year as head coach. How did all the pieces come together that year to make that happen?
Boy, it was a community effort. I'm going to tell you something right now. One of my best friends in the whole world, Mark McFarland, is our defensive coordinator, and he came with me to Adams, and that was really my only must-have when I got hired here, is I needed him to be part of our family here. And he has been our defensive coordinator, and he's an amazing master educator in the building, in our history department. He was a huge variable in that really fast transition from being really good to being really great. Because it's easy to be good. It's really hard to be great. And I have to give him a lot of the credit, because when you're learning a new offense, you better have a really solid defense as that transition takes place. And he and his defensive coaches and the players deserve the lion's share of the credit for that success in that first year, because I had to be all in and stopping some really great teams. And he did an amazing job getting the kids to lock in and know their job. And offensively, we just kind of try not to turn the ball over and keep possession and try to steal games, and end up being a great recipe. But I have to give him a lot of the credit.
You're 18 years removed from that moment, but what are some of your fondest memories of that season?
Well, I will tell you that the coaches that I hired from Adams that were there before never got past the first round of the playoffs in school history. And I can remember we won our first game, and we went to play the district final. And when we won that game, that coaching staff felt like, oh my gosh, we turned the page. We finally got to that next level. And seeing the true joy and appreciation in that moment from those men that have dedicated so much to support me and the kids was really one of my fondest memories. And then ultimately, what's really kind of scary, Duff, is I was a lot younger then. That all went so fast. That 5 weeks of playoffs was just a blink of an eye. But there's little tiny moments along the way. The smiles on the kids' faces, the satisfaction in beating teams that they hadn't beaten before. I'll never forget the joy, the pure joy that those boys had for that experience, and I'll never forget the looks on their faces.
You know, they say winning is contagious, and you started that by saying that they had never gotten out of the first round of the district. So it was almost like, okay, well, we made it this far. We won week 1. Why stop now? So they just kept winning and winning. That's perfect.
And,
Now,
someone echoed in our locker room, because our motto our motto, believe it or not, was choose to be a champion. And what happened, kind of what emerged as we got into the playoffs, is why not us? Like, all these other teams have had all this great success and they've done all these things and got so far in the tournament. And we started asking ourselves, and it came from the kids, not me, I have to give them credit. Why can't it be us? Why can't we bust our butt and get after it, these people, and believe in each other? We can win this thing. And it just kind of became a war cry for us.
you are in one of my favorite communities. You're in Rochester. There are so many great things to see and do out there, especially around Christmas time. The town gets all decorated and the lights, they light up all the different buildings. There's Christmas festivals, which I hope are coming back this year now that things are getting a little back to normal in terms of COVID. But I'm just curious, when you're out in the community, what is one of your favorite places in Rochester that you have to go to?
Well, believe it or not, my wife she's an amazing woman, and she sacrifices so much. She's a nurse at Troy Beaumont, and she works a lot.
Thank you for all she's done to make everybody better.
Yeah, she sacrificed so much. But we live a very modest life. She's really done a good job of making sure we keep our kids' interests first. So we don't go out and do a lot of fancy things. Believe it or not, tomorrow's our 21st wedding anniversary. We're going to go to the Rochester Chop House for dinner. We go like once a year because that's all we can afford. But that's one of our favorite places. And believe it or not, there's a little family restaurant right on Rochester Road by Lifetime called the Gold Star Family Restaurant, which is owned by actually Stony Creek parents. But we used to live over there, and we've been going there since we moved into the community. That's one of our favorite places. And other than that, we're real athletic people in our family. My wife was a all-state basketball player, and she played at Central. And 3 of my boys were, just had amazing careers at Adams, and my daughter's a varsity soccer player. So we spent a lot of our time, believe it or not, in the weight room at Adams, playing basketball in the gym or running on the track. So we're a pretty simple family, but those are our favorite places.
Now, let me ask you this. Are you a dessert guy at all? Because you've got two of my wife and I's favorite places. She loves Holy Cannoli, and myself, I'm a big fan of Knapp's Donuts. Do you guys ever stop by there on a cheat day or at all?
We have had Holy Cannoli several times, but Knapp's Donuts, not only for our family, because sometimes I drive my wife to work and I treat the kids, I stop and get a dozen on the way home, but our coaching staff, we had Knapp's Donuts yesterday as a pregame before we watched film, before our meeting yesterday. So Knapp's Donuts is definitely high on our list.
We're talking with Rochester Adams head coach Tony Patritto. The Highlanders are in action in week 1 against West Bloomfield. I want to talk now about this year's squad. Who are some of the guys that you have coming back this year? Some of the upperclassmen, they know what it takes to win because you guys were 7-3 just 2 years ago. With the experience that they have, what are you expecting out of those upperclassmen, guys who know how to get the job done?
Well, it begins and ends with, your senior leadership. We have 4 great captains, and one of them is Alex the Greek, who is a second-year captain. He's committed to Harvard. He's a defensive end, offensive tackle, and he has really dedicated himself to make himself a great player. Joe Shallow, Marco DeCrisi, and Christian Schomer, who's coming off a shoulder injury, who hasn't a chance to play much. Those 4 guys, because they were voted on by their peers as captains, I believe to be the most essential and important guys in our team. But we also have a really gifted quarterback safety named Parker Pico, who's committed to Alabama for baseball. He's going to be a junior. He started for us as a man-to-man lock corner, as a true freshman, and as a wide receiver. And last year as a sophomore, he had to play quarterback for the first time, really with some degree of experience. This year, we're hoping for him to really transfer some of that athleticism to the quarterback position. And so we're really excited to watch him play. So we have a lot of guys like that we have 8 starters back on both sides of the ball. Now, a lot of those are the same guys because we do not 2 platoon. We play a lot of guys both ways. We always have. But that's where it kind of begins and ends for us.
And that's amazing that you guys have some individuals that are going on to some top-name schools, particularly Harvard. You don't get to a school like that just by putting in hard work on the football field. You got to do it in the classroom too. And when it comes to those types of aspects of guys who play for you, what are the expectations that you have for your kids, both as football players and as people who represent Rochester Adams as students in the classroom?
What a great question. It's funny because I'm getting older now, and a lot of people are intimidated by the concept like they say, the hardest job ever has to be a teacher. Like standing in front of 30, 15-year-olds is terrifying to some people who do really difficult things in their lives. I'm going to say kids are still great, and you have to catch them being great and praise them and harvest that. And that includes how they act in the classroom. I love being a teacher. I think it translates very specifically to being a coach, because that's really what we are. We're teachers. And I'm amazed at the intelligence and the aptitude and the work ethic of the Rochester Adams students across the board, not just football players, but that's kind of the standard. Like at this place, those kids compete. And I am so proud to be associated with them as a teacher and as a coach, because it makes your job really, really easy as a teacher and a coach when the kids want to really be good. At whether it's football or school. And the second part of that piece is I have to give tons and tons of credit to our parents, because in some communities they think, well, the football coach or the teacher needs to fix these kids. We're having all these problems. At the end of the day, if it's not fixed at home, if it's not established at home, it's really hard to fix it. So I inherit and get to share the life and build relationships with great kids from great families. And they continue to make me so proud to be part of it.
With this group that you have coming in this season, what are some of your expectations for the 2021 season?
Well, that's a loaded question. And I know you get a lot of coach speak from coaches, but I'm going to be really, really honest. I think the expectations have to be set by individuals and leadership on a team. I'm not sure what they are yet, to be honest. I know for sure our primary focus is to being as good as we can be for week one, because we know there's no margin for error. West Bloomfield is a great team. They got great coaches. They got great players. And it's going to require a great effort by us to win. So that's really our focus. But believe it or not, this doesn't sound terrible. We expect to win if we take care of business on our sideline. Now, there's no one else that thinks that besides us and the people in our locker room, and I understand and respect that. I understand. I get it. I totally get it. But our expectation is to be good enough to win on that first Friday. And then after that, then we can kind of reassess where we're at and go forward and try to get ready for that next game.
Speaking of week one, like we've been talking about, you are going to get a huge test to start the season against the Division I state champs. Now, West Bloomfield won this matchup against your squad last year midseason. This week, you get a chance to see them in the opening game of the season. This should be a great week one matchup. So what are some things that you really hope to see out of your guys?
Well, number one is, you have to be very, very smart in how you play. For us offensively, for example, we have to maintain possession of the ball, not commit penalties and turnovers, because they're such an explosive team. You have to frustrate them and keep their offense on the sideline. And I have great faith in Coach McFarland and our defensive coaches to get our defense ready, because you have to have great pace. If you're late in windows, if you have any mental breakdowns, they're going to make you pay. So for us, the key to the game is totally that. If we take care of our business and do what we need to do on offense and make first downs and do a great job in special teams and shorten the game a little bit, for lack of a better expression. Not that we have to steal it, but that's our style. We're not a tempo team. We're going to huddle, and we're going to try to execute and keep possession of the ball. And that's the game plan. And for us to be successful, that's what has to happen.
After that matchup, you've got several good quality opponents on your schedule this year. What are some of the biggest challenges you're anticipating going throughout the season?
Well, we are not a huge roster. We have 44 guys. Durability is a big issue, and consistency week to week. There's no week off in our schedule. And we're in the OA white this year, but we crossed over twice with the red. And actually, West Bloomfield is an open date for us, so we play 3 red teams in our schedule. But for us, staying healthy enough and being consistent week to week, and having not be overreactive to wins or losses. I think that's a huge mistake, is you have to kind of live in the moment and enjoy the moment as a high school coach and player. And let's just say we're blessed and we get lucky and we beat West Bloomfield. But that kind of affect our performance on Monday morning as we prepare for Oxford. There has to be a completely growth mindset every day, or you're going to get whooped the next week. So that consistency and that standard and that staying healthy are big parts of your chance of success to the long term.
You have 44 guys on your roster. That's incredible, because when you think of some of these big schools that you're in the same schedule with, they go really deep. But with the 44 guys that you do have on the roster, how do you go about telling them that you all have a job to do, and we may not have as big a roster as the other guys, but we all have the same goal in mind?
And listen, and we got to embrace that. Like, I look at that as some coaches complain, like, we have 1,500 kids and we're playing these schools with 2,500 or 2,600 kids in their buildings. you know what? That's opportunity. It's not a bad thing. It goes back to my days at Foley. Like, if you have the right growth mindset and you're willing to embrace that, that's an opportunity to beat somebody that's got more coming to the table than you. Well, that makes the win even more fun and gives you more value in that win. So I actually love that fact. We've been doing that since I've been in the OA since day one, playing Clarkson, playing Lake Orion with almost 3,000 kids. Why not? Let's go. Like, at the end of the day, if you want to feel good about what you've accomplished and look back when you're done, you want to beat great teams, not just teams that are the same size as you with the same number of kids. This is an opportunity for us to do something great.
And I look forward to seeing you guys on the field this season. I'm definitely going to try to make it out to a few Adams games. And in the meantime, just enjoy week 1 and have a great anniversary. Happy anniversary to you and your wife. 21 years. That's amazing.
24. Don't get me in trouble.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm going to get myself in trouble. Let me correct myself there. 24 years. How did you guys meet?
You know, it's funny. It's one of my best friends in the world. I played college ball with. His name is Phil Anise. His brother's the head coach at Ferris State University, and he's married to my wife's sister. And Coach Patritto might be able to talk a good game on the radio, but I was not good with girls. So he kind of made an arrangement to introduce me to my beautiful wife, Shawn, and she kind of took me in like a stray dog. And I outkicked my coverage with her. She's amazing. She's beautiful, and I'm lucky to have her. And I always thank Phil and his wife, Vicky, for setting us up.
And hey, you've gotten really good at the talking thing too. This was a great conversation, and I thank you so much for making the time. I wish you and the Highlanders all the best this season. Tony Patritto, thank you so much for making some time this week. Let's do this again soon.
Anytime, Duff. Thank you.
Coming up, I talked to Lake Orion coach John Blackstock about the one word his Dragons have made their motto for this fall. He'll tell us what it is right after we hear from the Flushing Birdhouse.
This is the Birdhouse, and we love the Duff Said podcast because it's the most informative of all sports in Michigan.
Support for Duff Said comes from you, the listener. It also comes from people like Bethany and Michelle, who recently became patrons of this podcast. And you can too. For as little as $2 a month or $24 a year, you can help A Duff Said continue to grow and continue to provide the great content that you've come to expect from me each week. And if you're a patron, you get access to exclusive content that sometimes doesn't make it into the show. So just go to patron.podbean.com/A Duff Said. I am joined now by a man who will be starting his 24th season with the Lake Orion High School football program. He has been their head coach for the last 5 years. He is John Blackstock. John, it is always good to run you down. We were doing the Lake Orion report last year throughout much of the season, so it is good to talk to you again. How good does it feel to be back out there with your guys and getting ready for another season of Dragons football?
Yeah, it's great. Super excited to get back to another season, and also excited to take a little bit of time and speak with you.
Absolutely. It is always good to run you down and talk about the Dragons. You guys are Orion tough, and it's just good to talk to one of the local teams here in the community, because one of the goals this season is to really get to know a lot of you guys in the OAA Red, but it always starts with one of the classic teams, and that is Lake Orion. So let's talk a little bit now about your Dragons. You guys were 3-3 in 2020, and you had a lot of games last season. I know we talked about this many times on the Lake Orion report. So many games that if just a few measly plays had gone one way instead of the other, then it might have made a big difference for you guys in the win-loss column. What was your biggest takeaway from last season?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head that how fine a line it is between, winning on a Friday night and losing on a Friday night. And often you look back at the game and you can find, a couple of plays here and there, or, a 2-minute, 3-minute span of time of some mistakes that really end up costing you that victory. So it's really a fine line.
You had a motto from 2 years ago that really stuck in my head. So if it stuck in my head, I'm sure the kids bought into it as well. For a lot of those kids that you have coming back this season, that motto was attack success. I know you borrowed it from Sean McVay in the NFL,
Yep.
and he's going to be instilling that mindset in Matthew Stafford this season. But for your guys, when they found out that if they indeed attack success was bound to happen, and 2 years ago you had a great season, so a lot of that success did happen as a result of buying into the motto first. For a lot of those guys who are coming back, and some of them that experienced that great season from 2 years ago, what will it take for this group to return to that standard of excellence that you instilled?
Yeah, I think it's a building progression. With attack success, that's exactly the mindset that we felt we needed to develop back in 2019. And, last year we took maybe a little bit of a step back going 3-3. But at the same time, you look at those 3 losses that we had, and I don't think there's any real shame in them when the losses are to the state champion West Bloomfield High School, perennial power Clarkston High School, and then a really solid Grand Blanc program that is really on the rise and becoming a perennial power in itself. So, you lose to programs like that, and I don't think there's a lot of shame in it. We're trying to take that next step as a program. So this year's motto has become just simply one word, and the word is reach. And it kind of builds off attack success, because we felt that reach affected the kids on the field, off the field, in the community, in the classroom. And it had some different meanings within the one word. Obviously reaching a little bit farther, pushing a little bit harder physically. But then reach to us also meant being able to physically reach our hand and extend it to others to help them in a servanthood leadership type of way. And then the third meaning of reach for us is reaching people, making that connection and building relationships, which we feel all 3 of those things are important to our program and to our team moving into the 2021 season.
We are talking with Lake Orion head football coach John Blackstock. He has got a new motto for his team. I really like that, reach. It's just one word. It's simple. It's very easy to remember. What is it going to take, though, for you to get the guys to buy into that particular motto?
Yeah, it's something that we have to keep in front of them on a daily basis, and just make it so it becomes a part of their vocabulary, becomes a part of their mindset and their thinking of constantly trying to reach and connect and help and push a little bit harder, push a little bit further. And when it's in front of them daily, then, I think that's when it really takes grasp and takes a hold and becomes second nature to them. And that's the goal of it.
Let's take a look at your roster now. Who are some of the players that you have coming back from last season that have some experience under their belt and know what it takes to achieve success with Lake Orion?
Yeah, right now our roster is at 61 players in the varsity, and we've got 20 seniors that are returning. I feel like we've got a really solid group of seniors, but also a nice group of juniors and even a few sophomores that mix in there and are giving us some really good chemistry. I think top name people will recognize a couple of offensive linemen we have in Trevor Witt and Daniel Babcock and Jonah Fix. Those 3 are returning starters from last year's team. Babcock will be a 3-year starter for us on the offensive line. Tyler Carson is a returning quarterback for us, and it's always nice to have a returning quarterback. Nas Lardell is a returning running back. We'll also see, quite a bit of time on defense for us. And, defensively, we've got a couple of kids that we feel really anchor us in defensive end Joey Seed, inside linebacker Ethan Strand, and safety CJ Witt. And then you add in those juniors that are coming up, some of the younger guys like Nick Eaton and Dorian Hill, another senior wide receiver, Jack Wellman. We have a kid that moved from Grand Blanc in December and joined Lake Orion High School for the second semester, Stephen Brown, who ended up winning the Oakland County 100-meter track championship. So we've got a nice group of kids that are really starting to gel and come together, and we're excited about.
I want to go back to something that you told me a couple years ago, because when you mentioned those teams that you were in those big battles with last year, with the Clarkstons, the West Bloomfields, and the Grand Blancs, those are programs that not only achieve success, but those are the programs that in the last few years have gotten some guys to some big-name college programs. And when you and I talked a couple of years ago, you said, we don't really have stars on this team. We just have guys that show up and work hard every day. But then you did see some guys who actually did manage to go on to play at the next level for college football programs in like the Division IIs and in the GLIAC. So these guys know that if they put in the work, they know that there is success waiting for them at the next level. What is it like to see those guys grind it out and try to achieve all their goals that they have set forth as football players for your program?
Yeah, it's fun to watch. It's rewarding to be a part of, to see how hard our kids work in the off season, to prepare their bodies, to prepare themselves, and how hard they work during the season. A number of people have commented on, the strength of schedule of teams in the OAA Red, and, in our schedule specifically, and what a challenge it is. And we don't like to use that word challenge or that it's a tough schedule. We like to use the word opportunity. And I think our kids since 2019 have really embraced that it is an opportunity to play against great programs and ultimately against great individual players from all of those programs, because it gives them an opportunity to test themselves, see where they stand, and it also gives them an opportunity to show coaches at the next level in college, how well they can perform against top talent that ends up going to maybe some of those bigger schools, that our kids don't go to some of those bigger schools, but are doing really well themselves in terms of, like you brought up, the Division II and the Division III. We've had a number of those kids, and it's fun to watch those kids, kind of the underdogs, make a name for themselves during the season, playing the schedule that we do.
What are some of your expectations with those opportunities that you're going to get this year?
Our expectations are really the same every year. It doesn't change for us. That number one, we want to maximize our potential as a team and as individuals. And, we feel that really keeps us focused in the moment, not only on that opponent that we have in front of us for that week and not looking ahead, but it really keeps us in the moment of that day of preparing on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then it keeps us in the moment of each play having a life of its own. So that's our expectation, to maximize our potential as individuals and as a team. And, then also our expectation is we want to leave the field and people respect how we played. People, compliment us for our effort, compliment us for our discipline, as well as how we carry ourselves in terms of character and sportsmanship.
You opened the season at home against Utica Eisenhower. Now, the Eagles, just like you guys in 2019, they were a powerhouse, and then last year they saw their win total drop off completely. They were only 2-5 last year, but this is still a very good team from the Macomb Area Conference, and this is going to be a great opportunity for you. And it's a great Week 1 matchup. So what are you hoping to see from your guys when they hit the field to take on the Eagles?
Yeah, I think you're looking at two programs that are really similar. And you brought up the fact that in 2019 they had a great year. Actually, they knocked us out of the playoffs, in the district final at our place. And then we kind of had mirrored success or mirrored seasons last year in 2020. I think that we had lost a lot of senior leadership, and last year maybe struggled a little bit because of that. And I think now you're looking at two teams that are going to return a number of players, a number of good players, and both teams like to play good defense. They run really well on defense. They pursue to the ball, and they're going to be physical. So I expect a really good game. We have a ton of respect for them, as we've typically met up in the playoffs, and I think we've had pretty fair success against each other. With us beating them one year, them beating us the next year. And the one thing that always seems to happen when Lake Orion and Eisenhower play is it's typically a one-score game. Whether it's high scoring or low scoring, and more recently they've been a bit low scoring, but it's typically a one-score game all the way to the end.
He is John Blackstock, the head football coach at Lake Orion. The Dragons are taking on the Eagles at home to start the season. It's going to be a great one. John Blackstock, thank you so much for making the time here on our high school football preview show. It is always a pleasure. Best of luck to you and the Dragons this season.
Hey, thank you. We really appreciate you, highlighting not only our program and our student athletes, but, highlighting the great conference that we play in, being the OAA Red.
You haven't seen anything yet. I think you're going to be very pleased with what you see this season, with everything that we have in store for you guys this year.
Awesome. Can't wait.
I will be at that Lake Orion game on Thursday night. I will have highlights and reactions from that game. You can find them on my website, aduffsaid.com. You can also find it on my Facebook page. Just look up the name Sports Journalist Duff Tyler. You can also find me on Twitter and Instagram. All you got to do is look up Duff Tyler. Now, I am looking for the best student section in all of Michigan. The search begins this week. Here are some good ones I found in 2019. Who has the best student section in all of Michigan?
Western High!
Mount Pleasant Oilers, dude! New Lothrop!
Once again, I want to say thank you so much for hitting the play button on this podcast, and that includes two very special listeners, Michelle and Bethany. They recently became patrons of A Duff Said. Now, for as little as $2 a month, or $24 a year, you can help this show to continue to grow and provide the content that you enjoy. And if you become a patron of A Duff Said, we have got a lot of great gifts in store for you. We've got bumper stickers, we've got t-shirts. Heck, I'll even record your voicemail message. So if you're having trouble ever figuring out what to say, I'll say it for you. And that's A Duff Said. If you'd like to become a patron of A Duff Said, all you got to do is go to patron.podbean.com/A Duff Said. Aaron Marshall has spent much of the last decade as the offensive coordinator for the Southfield A&T football program. This year is his first as the head coach of the Warriors. As you're about to hear, Marshall had success as a player in both high school and college. Now coaching in his hometown, he is hoping that this year's group can start a winning culture in Southfield. My conversation with Aaron Marshall starts now. So what has been the one thing that you have been stressing to your guys in these last couple of weeks of practice, getting ready for the start of the season this Saturday?
Consistency. For us, we have a young group, but they're a very talented group. So you see all kind of flashes of greatness, right? And then you kind of see a taper off of some mediocrity sometimes, right? So us playing at that high level is a challenge for us. They're better today than they were a month ago, right? They're better tomorrow than they'll be yesterday, right? That's our goal, to get better every single day. So being consistent, and just getting kind of the immaturity out of the group, because they're a young group, but they're also a very special group, right? So I think if they can do that, we'll be all right.
This is your first year as the head coach of the program. Prior to that, you were the offensive coordinator. You've been with Southfield A&T for 8 years now, and one of the things that you guys have been looking for since 2016 is your first winning season. As you take the mantle of head coach this year, what are some changes that need to be made in order to turn it around and get you guys back to getting more wins in the win column?
Just focusing on the little things. Like I say, it's more the off the field things and on the field things, right? Knowing what it takes. I won 2 state championships when I was in high school, so I know what winning looks like. And so just getting back to the little things and that consistency, as I spoke about. We have a saying, whatever it takes is our motto for this 2021 football season. And we really stand by that, right? We wake up in the morning and everybody makes their bed, right? It's the first thing we do, right? We want to win in everything we do. We want to start just building that winning culture back, like you said, here at Southfield.
So you won 2 state titles. Tell me about that. Where did you play, and how far back does that go when you won those state titles?
So 2000, I was part of that team. In 2001, part of that team at Mount Carmel High School in Chicago. That's
going back a few years and in another state. What do you remember about those days? What are some of your fondest memories?
Just great, just the brotherhood that we built. And that's something that I'm absolutely trying to carry over here. Just the kind of fight and grit and love that we have for one another, at Mount Carmel, kind of stuck with me the rest of my life. That was probably the best team I've ever been a part of while I was playing. And the reason that we won wasn't really, we weren't always the most talented team back then on the field. But we by far, we're the most, hungry team, I would say, or the most disciplined team. By definitely the most consistent team, right? I know I'm gonna keep using that word, but that's just how football is. When you're tired, when things are going not going your way, can you stay consistent and stay true and stay mentally tough to your keys and your reads and what you're supposed to do? So that's kind of, something I'm absolutely trying to bring to this team in 2021.
Now, several years ago, I had a cousin who was on a state championship team in Illinois, and I remember they got honored at Soldier Field. Did you get a moment like that, and what was it like?
We did get a moment like that, and it was awesome. Winning that state championship, some guys on my team had actually three-peated. I transferred in that school my junior year, played juniors in my senior year, but they won in 99 as well. So, there were some guys on that team that got 3 rings. It was awesome. So, the tradition of winning, it's the most winningest high school program in Chicago. Underneath Coach Frank Linney was my head coach there. Just an awesome experience all around.
What did you learn from your coach back then that you were able to take with you as a head coach yourself? With this obviously being your first season, what are some of the lessons that you remember from him then that you're planning to take to your first season as head coach and kind of pass on to the guys that you're coaching now?
Structure and brotherhood, right? He was a very structured coach. We did things, organized every day. It was always a plan and always a reason and the mission behind what we're doing. And building that brotherhood and building that bond. He was really, really huge on that. Because, when you care about the guy next to you, right, you go that extra mile. You do a little bit more than it, right? Understanding that you're part of a game that's bigger than yourself, understanding that you're part of something that's bigger than yourself. So that's one thing I definitely picked up from Coach Frank Linney that he kind of instilled in us in all his program and in all his teams that play underneath him, which is why he has so much success.
From winning a state championship in high school, where did you go from there?
Youngstown State, played quarterback there for 4 years.
The Penguins.
Yes, sir.
I remember them. They used to be a conference rival with Indiana State, my alma mater. Did you get a chance to play with Jim Tressel, or was he already at Ohio State at that point?
He was at Ohio State. So the year he recruited me a little bit, and then he got the job at Ohio State. John Haycock was my head coach.
And what was that experience like, getting to play in the Gateway Conference? I believe that's what it was called back then. It hadn't become the Missouri Valley. What was it like to get to play in that environment for Youngstown? Because they have a crazy fan base down there. It's all about football in Youngstown, Ohio. What were those memories like for you?
It was awesome, man. And I kind of got a lot of experience on it because as a kid, I have a brother who's 8 years older than me. He also went to Youngstown, and he was part of Tressel's 3 national championship teams. So he played there 93, 94, and his senior year 97. So he got 3 rings from there. So as a kid, I would go watch him play. And like you say, just the fan base was crazy. The town shuts down on game night. So I actually kind of look forward to going there, once that offer was extended my senior year at Mount Carmel. And it was exciting, and everything was just, downhill from there.
Now, the Indiana State University alumnus has to know, do you remember any of your games against Indiana State by any chance?
Absolutely, I remember. It's so funny. One game I was kind of injured, and so I didn't start at quarterback that game, but I dressed kind of like a break glass if you need emergencies, right? So we're down 2 touchdowns going into the second half. They ended up putting me in. We came back, win the overtime, and beat you guys. That's the one game I'll never forget.
Everybody beat us back then, but props to you for coming off the bench and delivering. I was going to say, if you lost to us, I don't know what I would have really have had to rub it in.
You guys had some players though. It was some good kids on the team that year. You guys had, I think, like the best running back actually in the league that year. He was like the best running back, kick returner. I mean, this guy could move. So you guys were a handful that year.
Absolutely. I can't remember his name, but I know who you're talking about, but I just can't remember
he was
his
short,
name.
Wasn't the tallest guy, biggest guy, but I mean, he could fly. He was tough to stop.
I can't remember. Was that Shakir Bell? Was that then, or was that before his time?
Man, I can't remember the name either.
But you obviously had a great career in college. What led you to become Aaron Marshall, the quarterback in college, to Aaron Marshall, the offensive coordinator, and eventually a head coach?
Just, wanting to give back. And I'm from Southfield, Michigan, right? So I'm born and raised here. I didn't move out to Chicago till my junior year in high school. So, I went to all elementary school, middle school here in Southfield. Played for the Southfield Jayhawks youth organization here. So, I'm very Southfield, right? So, once I stopped playing arena ball and came back home and I got married and had kids, my goal was always get back here, right? And I was just blessed to become an assistant coach here at the high school. After I had coached some youth football here for the Southfield Jayhawks for a couple of years. And I worked for the school district as well, right? So I work in the school system here. And, just becoming the head coach, has just been an awesome blessing for me. But, even if I never was the head coach, I was so comfortable being the old coordinator here, just happy with the opportunity.
So when you got that call that they were going to promote you to head coach, what was going through your mind at that moment?
Just excited, really excited, and just started, like I said, just extremely honored and felt, really blessed.
You are now the head coach at Southfield. This is your home. This is where you always wanted to be. But what is it about Southfield that has always had that special place in your heart?
Just being born and raised here, understanding the city, the community, the culture, the climate, just how things are done here in Southfield. We're special, and it's a city like no other. And I really truly believe that. Our kids believe it, our parents believe it, and our community. So me, being the head coach here at Southfield, I have a lot on my shoulders, a lot of people that, is kind of counting on it. So, I'm just working hard every day to keep everybody happy.
Well, I'm getting to know a lot of the coaches in the OAA Red, and one of the things I've been asking them is their best place to eat after a game. I've been getting to know some of the places that guys like to go either before the game or during the week with practice. We've been talking about donuts. We've been talking about restaurants. Best place to go in Southfield after you celebrate a victory this season?
So right now we're going to be going to Debo's when we get done with our games after. It's a brand new place, to be honest with you. A couple of our alumni here from Southfield, they own it. And so, we like to keep the money in the family. So Debo's will be the name of the new place that we'll be heading to after our games this year.
You know what? I'm not too far away in Orion Township. I may have to just go check that out myself. What's good on the menu?
The chicken wings is what they're known for, and the adult beverages.
Hey, you said two of my favorite things right there. I am in. I will be there. I will have to check that out.
Yes, sir.
Now, I want to know, how would you describe your coaching philosophy? Because I know that you have always instilled in your guys that it's all about a brotherhood. It's all about always making that commitment and never giving up. But aside from that, what are some other philosophical edges that you try to instill in your guys?
Being a student of the game, right? I think that's really important. Understanding what you're doing, not just being robots, right? So that's one thing that's kind of lost with kids nowadays compared to, I guess, when we grew up. We watched NFL football. We watched college football. Right now I can name a bunch of players, and a lot of these young kids don't even know who they are. It's like, how do you not know who Barry Sanders is, Walter Payton, right? Thurman Thomas, all these greats. But they're just not students of the game like we were growing up now. But so that's just something I really focus on with them as far as watching film. And, when you leave here, turn on a game tonight. There's some NFL preseason game, right? Turn it on. Watch your position. These guys are the best of the best. You know, like you can learn from them. So just getting them to be, you know, at that level of always learning, right? And never think you figured it out, never think you got it. Because as we all know, right, football is 90% mental, 10% physical. That's, you know, so true. And that never changes in this game of football. It's the most honest game. You know, it's the biggest team game in the world, right? So you have to train your mind. You have to know exactly what's going on. You have to, you know, be a student of the game, you know? So that's something I really push on our guys.
That is perfect because you just turn on the TV. There's no ticket you have to buy. You don't have to watch the games. You can just watch positions. And nowadays, you can even go on NFL.com and you can set it up to where you can watch just guys at those particular positions because they've got all these crazy camera angles now. So it's almost like they're giving you your own coaching instructions just by watching a game now. You can actually break it down. Now, I'm curious. You spent some time in Southfield, so you've lived in Metro Detroit, but you also lived in Chicago, too. So are you a Lions fan or a Bears fan?
Oh, my goodness. It's a Lions fan every day, all day. It's not never, ever will be a Bears fan.
Yeah, there was no change into the jersey. So are you going to be there on Thanksgiving when the Lions host the Bears?
Yeah, I'll be there for sure. Absolutely.
Do you have any, like, connections to the Bears, though? You spent some time in Chicago. Do you still follow them at all?
I don't, but a lot of my friends on my Facebook page do because, Brian, I got a lot of high school buddies from Chicago, of course, and they're diehard Chicago fans. So
now, does it ever get intense during Bears-Lions weeks?
Extremely intense. Extremely.
Well, hopefully you can win a few of those matches. There's been some changes in the Motor City, but hopefully some good ones. I really like this new head coach they've got, Dan Campbell. I'm expecting some decent things out of him this year. What's your analysis of the Lions?
Same here. Anytime you get a new regime, and I know they're trying to change the coach over there, so I'm excited to see what it's going to look like. We can go nowhere but up. I know that much. So I'm excited.
When he gave that speech.
So this team's going to be built on, we're going to kick you in the teeth. All right. And when you punch us back, we're going to smile at you. And when you knock us down, we're going to get up. And on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off. All right. And we're going to stand up. And then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down. All right. And on the way up, we're going to take your other kneecap. And we're going to get up, and then it's going to take 3 shots to get us down. And when we do, we're going to take another hunk out of you. Before long, we're going to be the last one standing.
What did you make of that? And have you tried to bring any of that competitiveness to your own guys?
Oh, absolutely. And a lot of different verbiage. But, I mean, I guess, you know, what I took from that is just, you know, having a ferocious, you know, mindset, right? Like a relentless, ferocious, by any means necessary mindset. Which is why our slogan is whatever it takes, right? So that's our motto for this year. So I'm assuming that's where he was getting at, you know, with that speech from him.
It was different. It was definitely different.
It was.
But I like that fieriness in a coach. I really do. I really like that competitive nature, especially when this is a city that's been waiting for a guy who can really make this team a consistent winner. Not just have a few winning seasons here and there, but somebody who can make this team consistently good, because that's really what's been missing in Detroit. We had flashes of brilliance under Jim Caldwell and under Jim Schwartz, but we just never really got a consistent pattern where they took it a step further. We're still waiting on that first division title since '93 here in Detroit. I know it's going to take some time, but do you feel like this is the right group to do it?
We'll see. We'll know after the first few games. You know, just like I say, just by the product we see on the field, it's not necessarily a win-loss thing for me. It's, you know, a way they're playing, right? I can kind of tell what kind of Lions team we have by just how they look out there on the field, right? It's the NFL, so you won't win them all, right? But what kind of product are we putting out there on the field, right? And that's the same for me here at Southfield A&T, right? It's so important to me, the kind of product that we put on the field. Wins and losses, right? So you win some, you lose some. We hope to win them all, no doubt, right? But first and foremost, we got to take care of ourselves and just be ready, you know?
So getting back to your guys now here at Southfield A&T, who are some guys that you're hoping to get out there on the field that we also need to look at and to hopefully have a breakout season for you this year?
We have a few. We got some seniors that are really good. I would say the anchor of our defense is our linebacker, Matt Baker. Matt Baker's a senior. On offense, Davion Young is one of our elite wide receivers. The quarterback, Isaiah Marshall, They got him ranked the number 1 quarterback in the OAA right now, number 5 player in the state, any class, and he's just a 2024 kid, right? He's just going to be a sophomore. That's my nephew. We got some linemen that are really good. I mean, who's going to break out, we'll see. Like, if we had this conversation 4 weeks after the season started, I could have a much better, right? But right now, we have a lot of kids that are young with the potential to be great, right? But as we all know, right, potential doesn't feed anybody. So they got to live up to that name, live up to what their potential is, and kind of break out. But right now, those 3 kids I told you are kind of our anchor of our defense and our offense.
What's it been like to coach your nephew? What's that relationship on the field like?
It's been awesome because he's a humble kid, right? It's all kind of, different attitudes, and you get out of different quarterbacks and kids with the amount of success that he's had so early. But he's an extremely humble kid. He's very thankful. He's a kid of faith. So, talking to him and coaching him up has been, refreshing, right? I would say. So he's a great listener. He wants to be great. He understands right now he doesn't know it all. I'm sure there may come a day, he gets a little confident on me and one in one ear out the other, but I hope it never comes. As of right now, he's, like I say, extremely coachable, and he's showing no signs of, anything down from there.
When you found out you were going to be the head coach and you were going to be coaching him, not just as the coordinator, but as the coach, what were some of those discussions like?
It was great. I mean, we, because he's my nephew, we talk all the time. And, ever since Little League, he was going to come definitely play for me. Me being a quarterback and training him most of his life, we kind of always had that relationship. He, as far as coaching him, I've been coaching him because I was a quarterback coach and coordinator last year. So I did get to coach him as a freshman. He was our starting quarterback last year as a freshman as well. So, we kind of had that relationship and like I say, that bond, which is really good. And this year in particular, now that I'm the head coach, Coach Richard Pop, who's also been training Isaiah, he's my offensive coordinator and my quarterback coach. So I'm kind of more hands-off this year than I was last year. I have a new offensive coordinator who's my new quarterback coach as well, and he's trained Isaiah as well for a number of years. So they have a really unique bond as well. And I thought it was really important for me to bring somebody in new and kind of me back off, right? I've known him his whole life. I took him to a certain point, and now kind of, I'm still there. But just having that other voice and listening to that other voice, I think is really helping him out a lot as well.
What are some of the biggest challenges that you anticipate going through this season?
I would just say the consistency, man, like we started. But again, they're doing so well right now, like I say, compared to a month ago, 2 months ago. So as long as they can keep that level head, because we have probably the toughest schedule in the state of Michigan, right? The OAA is like the biggest gauntlet. And outside of our conference, we open up with Cass Tech and we end at River Rouge. So we probably have, like I say, the toughest schedule in the state of Michigan. So for those young boys to be a part of that, it's going to be a great thing for them to experience, and how they handle it, right, and how they handle adversity is going to be something to look at. So if they stay consistent and even-keeled and, have that temperament that we all want, we can do big things. But if they not really sure how to handle adversity and their youth shows, right, it can be a tough season, but I'm going to bet, that they'll be ready.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that game against Cass Tech. You're opening up against them, and they're arguably probably the best team that came out of Detroit last season. So you're going to have your hands full with them. What kind of test are you expecting out of Cass Tech come Saturday?
They're a championship program, right? So, we're expecting to see it all. Size, speed, discipline. They're Cass Tech for a reason, right? So we know that. We're preparing for that. And we got our work cut out. But I'll our guys been preparing really well. I'm happy where we are right now. So we'll see what happens on Saturday.
Hey, whatever it takes.
That's it.
He is Coach Aaron Marshall with Southfield A&T. They open up the season this Saturday against Cass Tech. Coach Marshall, it was a pleasure to talk to you this evening. Thank you so much for making the time, and best of luck to you in your first season as head coach, and best of luck to your guys as well.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you having me on the show. Thanks a lot, Duff.
What a great conversation, and I had no idea it was coming, but I was so thrilled that I could work in an Indiana State University reference in this high school preview show here on A Duff Said. Now, not only did Aaron Marshall lead Youngstown State to wins over my alma mater, but he's also in an elite group of quarterbacks that have won against Indiana State over the years, and that list includes guys like Hall of Famer Kurt Warner, Tony Romo, and Carson Wentz, just to name a few. So, Aaron, you're in elite company, my friend. Now, speaking of friends, you know I have made some amazing friends out in Freeland, and this is a town that is ready for their Falcons to take that next step. And that next step just so happens to be Ford Field.
Who has the best student section in Michigan?
Davidson High School, baby!
Who has the best student section in Michigan? Who has the best student section in all of Michigan?
Support for Duff Said comes from you, the listener. It also comes from people like Bethany and Michelle, who recently became patrons of this podcast. And you can too. For as little as $2 a month or $24 a year, you can help A Duff Said continue to grow and continue to provide the great content that you've come to expect from me each week. And if you're a patron, you get access to exclusive content that sometimes doesn't make it into the show. So just go to patron.podbean.com/A Duff Said. The Freeland Falcons made it all the way to the state semifinals last season, but a loss from Grand Rapids Catholic Central kept the Falcons from making it to the state finals for the first time in school history. This year, led by senior quarterback Bryson Huckabee, the Falcons plan to make another deep run in the playoffs despite moving up to Division IV. I am joined now by a man who is in his 16th season as the head coach of the Freeland Falcons. The Falcons kick off their season against Clare. Kevin Townsend is my guest now. Kevin, it is always good to run you down. Thanks for making some time for me.
All right. Thanks, Duff, for having me.
You are always welcome here. We do this every year, and I always look forward to our conversations because you are like a football professor. All I have to do is just sit back and take notes because you always drop some science on me when it comes to football.
Well, I don't know about that, but I, again, obviously enjoy doing it, enjoy coaching, and I'm not sure I see myself hanging it up anytime soon. Just really enjoy having fun with the kids.
Well, not after the season that you had last year. You guys made it to the state semifinals in Division V back in 2020. What was that experience like for you as a head coach?
It was obviously very unique. I'd never been there before, but I think just a weird year, obviously with COVID and how it transitioned, and the kids were amazing. We didn't play a game for 2 months before we went into that game, so to keep them focused and and keep them hungry and healthy, I guess would be it was definitely a task. But to keep 17 and 18-year-olds away from places that they weren't able to go to really took away from the whole football aspect of it, but it gave coaches a lot of time to work on things.
For the kids that you've got coming back this season, they only lost twice last year. I know you said it was kind of a topsy-turvy year, but when it came down to business, you had only 2 losses last year, and both of those were to the 2 teams that ended up playing for the state championship in Division V in Frankenmuth and Catholic Central. What was the biggest takeaway for your guys from playing in the state semifinals and the season as a whole?
Well, we lost to Frankenmuth the very first game of the season and lost pretty handily to them. We had some significant injuries in that game that were hard to just throw a kid back in and expect to, have the same chemistry. But kids rallied around and filled that position up and got us back on a roll. And then we had a game this year where Bridgeport took us to the wire, and another kid, a different kid, stepped up in that game to get a touchdown when we needed one. So it was just one of those teams where, if you tried to stop one player, it seemed like we had another kid that was stepping up. And like I said, with the Frankenmuth game to start with, it was our center, so he broke his hand on the first play of the game. And it wasn't, a running back or a receiver or a quarterback that steps up. And those are the kids that usually get all the recognition, for winning games in the newspaper. You never hear about the offensive lineman doing anything. But in this situation, we had an offensive lineman step up and replace our starting center. And we struggled again that game in the Clare game to ever get going. In the Frankenmuth game to ever get going. But after that, he became Cole Weesey was our center, and he created a pretty good relationship with Bryson, and and that was where we just grew from there.
Speaking of Bryson, this is going to be his senior year. He has been the quarterback for you guys really since midway through his freshman year. Each season, I feel like he's gotten better and better. What's it been like, just the relationship that you guys have built out in Freeland, and what's it been like to watch him grow in that position?
Yeah, I think the key word is grow, because I think every single year that's what he seems to do, and obviously not just in the talent of his game, but in his size. He's 6'4" now, and obviously I can remember, back when he was 4'6", and I went over and delivering cookies on Thursday night to my house. But he's completely changed the type of quarterback that he is from his freshman year, where he was more of a pocket presence kid, where this year he had multiple touchdown runs, one of almost 80 yards against Swan Valley. So he's completely changed his game. And then, I guess if you don't know Bryson, and obviously you followed him throughout these 4 years, is that he's a pretty good athlete in every sport that he does. He threw shot this year and just on the track team and helped them win a district title and a regional title. But he's just a pretty humble kid. He just goes out and does what you need him to do to win. We have big, tall receivers and a big quarterback, but we're known for running the ball. And I know Bryson wants to, throw 30 touchdowns and run all over the place. But when you talk to Bryson, the first thing he wants to do is beat Clare week 1. That's really all that he seems to care about. For
people who are hearing this for the first time, he's also your neighbor. So you have had a chance to watch this kid grow up like in the 4th grade?
Yeah. He lives 2 houses down from me. And again, for those that haven't followed this, that they kind of started a tradition years ago where every Thursday night they would bring Oreos over to the house, and Bryson's older brother Jackson would have one, Bryson would have one, and then their younger brother Wilson would always get 3 because he was the little guy. It's worked well for him too, because Wilson's going to catch Bryson here and pass him before long too. But yeah, Jen and Barry are our neighbors, mom and dad, right down the road, 2 houses down. It's been a great relationship, and we're in a golf league on Thursday nights, and Barry plays in that golf league with us. And you saw that we went to Nashville this summer, and they were in Nashville with us too. And so just kind of one of those, cul-de-sacs that we live in, where everybody just gets along and everybody looks out for each other's kids.
It is an amazing story, and of course you can hear all about that in some of my previous episodes of my podcast here on A Duff Said. But as far as the 2021 Freeland Falcons go, who are some other big names that we should be looking for on the Freeland roster?
Well, we have 21 seniors, so it's kind of in a sticky situation where you get asked to bring kids to media day and to talk on the radio and things like that, and it's a tough thing to do when you have 21 seniors. And again, following us, most of these 21 kids got to play, if not start, when they were sophomores on varsity in the regional championship game up at Kingsley. And then again, most of those kids started last year as juniors in the semifinal game. So our 2 of our running backs that are seniors that have been with us for a while, Jacob Kundinger is one of our starting halfbacks. He'll be a 4-year starter for us. Garrett Pistro is our fullback. He's a kid who's really transformed his body in the weight room, and he'll be a significant player for us. Alex Dooley is another 3-year kid, was on varsity as a freshman, but towards the end of the season, he's one of our 6'5" receivers. Alex broke his ankle in the Swan Valley game last year, so he missed a lot of the season. And then Cole Fournier is another senior defensive back, running back, who broke his ankle in the Swan Valley game, who's back and excited to play. Nathan Levingston is one of our halfbacks, starting defensive back. And then Andrew Kowalski was our center last year. That's who broke his hand, so he missed the entire junior year. So he's back to help anchor that line with some seniors there. And C.J. Schultz is a inside linebacker with Jacob Kundinger. Again, we've got seniors in significant spots. We've got some young juniors. Gabe Blanchard will be a 3-year starter as a junior. He started as a freshman. Chris Morgan got to play some center last year when we had some injuries as a sophomore, so he'll be a 2-year starter at center for us. So we've got weapons all over the place, not just in the skill positions, but like I said, most of these kids, are just excited to get back out and compete against somebody else, and they were on that journey last year that ended January 16th, so a pretty long football season for them.
You've got so many guys coming back who are experienced and healthy. So with all of that in mind, what are your expectations for this year?
Well, obviously the expectations are, to get to Ford Field, but it's not that simple, in the game of football. When you lose in the regional and then you lose in the semis, the next step, is the final game. And that's really, the only way to go. But we switched divisions this year. We're a bigger school than we were last year by just enough kids. So we're going to be in Division 4. That's going to change some things for us a little bit because we're going to play all these schools that are much bigger than we are. The cutoff is 614 kids, and we're 615, so we will be the smallest team in Division 4. So that's going to be interesting for us. But, we picked up Clare again week 1. They're a team that we've played for many, many years, and Kelly Luplo does a great job up there, and that will be a tough game to start with. And then we finished the season with Flushing, over 1,000 kids in that school. So we kind of scheduled what we can to make it back to where we got to, but injuries will be a big, part of any season for anybody. But again, the kids are hungry. Obviously, they want to get to Ford Field. That's a very easy statement for any team to tell you that. But we're one of those teams where we're focusing on playing Clare week 1, and the rest of it will take care of itself.
I have always been a big fan of Clare. I love going to Clare on Friday nights. The atmosphere that they have at this small town in kind of the northern part of mid-Michigan is always electric. They always have a great atmosphere, but you guys are going to experience that as the visiting team. So I don't know if you're going to get a whole lot of love from that aspect of it, but you are going to get a great test from them, no doubt. They are a great program, and I think this is going to be a good test for your guys right out of the gate. What are you expecting out of this game?
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, Clare's a team that seems to be the top of the Jack Pine every year. From the things that we know about them, they're a lot like we are in the sense that they have a lot of kids that are returning. They were a young squad. They went undefeated last year and lost to Montague in the playoffs. So that was their season ended shorter than what they wanted it to. So it'll be a tough game. Kelly does a great job coaching. We've played them, like I said, for many years, and most of the times with those games, they were a one-score game. We did beat them pretty good in the district championship game the last time that we played them, but that was a special team that went up to Menominee, and I had some top players and some of the best players that I've coached before. So Kelly will have those kids completely ready to go. We don't get a chance to look at them until on the 19th of August is their scrimmage, as is ours. And so, we have just some film from last year. You got to check and see which one of those kids graduated and, who didn't, and be ready to play.
On the Freeland side of the equation, you have built something very special in that community. There are kids right now in the 4th and 5th grade that can't wait to play for you and call themselves Freeland Falcons. And it's been that way for a while now in Freeland. What did you have to do as both a coach and a member of the community to get all these kids to get on board with you and buy into the program?
One thing that we really try to stress, and I hope that people in our community see this, is that we're a pretty successful program because we have great kids and we have a great community. To me, obviously, we all want to win games. And if I told you winning wasn't important, that would be a lie. But we're just involved. Right now, as we speak, I have 83 referees up at the school for doing a referee clinic, and I have players up there from 8th grade up through varsity that are running whatever plays the referees want them to do to work on getting better. We had 162 kids at our kindergarten through 8th grade camp. Our program ran the flag football through the sports zone at the township park here. We refereed all that. I had 3 kids actually coach teams. 1 kid coached the kindergarten first grade team. One kid coached a 2nd, 3rd grade team, and 1 boy coached a 4th and 6th grade team. We built a pavilion behind the sports zone for people that are riding their bikes that can stop and get out of the sun and enjoy a little shade and something to drink. So all those things, aren't involving a football and winning games, but they're involving, being better human beings and being good in your community. And that's how you get the support back. And I go from business to business when the first day of school gets out, shake hands with business owners to get some sponsorship signs on the fence. We buy T-shirts for every business that will allow us to. The shirts say Freeland football on the front. On the back of them, they say game day. And we just want them to wear those shirts on the days that we have games so that everybody in Freeland knows that there's a game on Thursday night or on Friday night. So to have that support and to see it kind of everywhere you go, I don't think we really give anybody a choice in Freeland except to know that we exist. And everywhere you go, here we're going to be. But we want it to be positive things because fortunately we live in a world that perseverates on negativity. And when you do something bad, everybody knows about it. And unfortunately, that kid could be a baseball player or a basketball player or whatever else, but you'll hear people say, did you hear that football player did this? And so we try to find 10 good things, make you forget about the one bad thing that happens. And, I try to explain to everybody, if you ran a business and your employees were 80, 15, 16, 17-year-old boys, you're probably going to have some errors or some things get broke. And so, again, when I first started here, I taught kindergarten through 6th grade phys ed. John Nixon was our head coach. When he decided he wasn't coaching anymore, I was fortunate enough to get that job, but I got John to come back and coach freshman football for me. I had one of my coaches taught 6th grade. I taught 7th. I had one that taught 8th. We have one that taught 9th. So we were able to build a relationship with these kids outside of football before they ever even got a chance to step into the high school program. And I think because of that, they know who we are, and we show them, what it's like to be a good person. And we really want them to come up and give us everything that they have.
And I know that they are definitely behind you because I was looking through some old pictures through one of the local papers recently, and I saw a sign that sums it up beautifully for how Freeland feels about you. It simply said, "In Townsend, we trust." So they have definitely got your back out there in Freeland.
I knew you were going to say that sign too, because I know who made it. So
that's what you should have on a T-shirt.
That was when we were leaving to go up to Menominee. They had the town was ready and excited to escort us out as we headed up to the UP, and that was I remember looking out of the bus window and seeing that sign and just kind of chuckling with it. So again. Yeah, that it would be awesome. Obviously, there are people out there that don't trust some of the things that we do and think that they can coach better than what we do. And I'm not a naive person. I get the fact that we've never won a state championship, but people grasp the concept that there's almost 600 high schools in the state of Michigan. Only 8 of them are going to do so at the end of this year. So when people ask us how we're going to be, usually our common answer is we're going to be as good as everybody lets us be, because if we're good and everybody is great, then we're not going to win a game. So like I said, all we can do is control, us, take care of us, practice as hard as we can, lift when we can and do our speed agility training and give these kids every opportunity they can to be successful. And as long as they take advantage of that, then we know that they've done their part to put us in a successful situation.
You've certainly done your part, Kevin. You have won more than 100 games over at Freeland. You've added a lot of championship trophies to the trophy case at Freeland High School. And each year, you just keep taking that next step. He is Kevin Townsend, the head football coach at Freeland High School. Freeland opens the season on the road at Clare. Kevin, all the best to you in that game and for the entire season. Always good to track you down. Thanks for making the time.
No problem. Thanks, Duff. I appreciate you getting a hold of me.
And now let's head out to Swartz Creek. I recently caught up with Dragons head coach Joe Spencer. Coach Spencer, your group went from 1-8 in 2019 to 5-3 last year. What was the catalyst behind the big turnaround?
I think you got to credit the culture of our program for turning the thing in the right direction. There's no substitute for talent, but talent doesn't get you anywhere without hard work. And our kids last year, and I think this year as well, are bought into this idea of working hard and working together and having a team mindset, and that makes me proud.
How do you get those guys to buy into what you're basically selling them in order to be successful with the program? Because I talk to so many coaches, and they tell me it's all about developing a culture first. The wins and losses, they'll take care of themselves down the road, but we have to build a camaraderie, and we have to build that culture first. How do you get the guys to basically buy into what you're selling?
Coaching, right, is bringing a team together and trying to get them to accomplish more than they could as individuals, as a group. But we like to start with relationships. My coaching staff does a great job of building relationships with these young people, and we try to make the expectations clear, but we also like to tell them, that we care about them as people and get them to care about each other too. And that, I think, has been one of the foundations of what we're trying to accomplish with our culture. And hopefully we'll continue to take that even to higher heights moving forward. But being a coach in a lot of ways is just like being a teacher or others that are in mentorship. These guys will go out there and work hard for us, we believe, if they believe that we care about them.
What was it like to see these guys go from a 1-8 season to 5-3? As a coach and as a guy who works with these kids day in and day out, what was it like to see the mood just completely change and for these guys to pick up some things along the way?
It was like a really exciting season for us. I think maybe even more so than wins and losses. We got to see the development of the mindset, what I call a growth mindset on these kids. They started to believe in each other, and we didn't go undefeated and all that, but we did put ourselves in contention, and we played some tough opponents, and you got to give them credit. But I feel like at least in some of the games, our kids didn't cash it in, and I was really proud to see that our mindset is evolving towards that ultimate culture of being competitive and showing courage for 4 quarters.
For the kids that you have coming back this season, what was their takeaway from that and being able to get back to winning games and giving you guys a foundation that you can build on for this season?
We have a good senior class right now of kids that now have experienced football, moving, to more serious competition. We have a group that worked really hard in the off season. We've had really good turnout this summer. We've had good buy-in leadership from several kids. So I think that scaffolded itself. As you start to believe that you can be successful, you start to see guys work harder. And we've been fortunate. We got a brand new facility. Well, it's mostly new. Upgrade to our stadium, and that, I think, makes it a little easier to go to work, when you've got brand new stuff. So we've been pretty happy with that.
I haven't had a chance to see a game in the new stadium yet, but I have been to the new stadium. You guys got yourself a gorgeous facility out there. What was it like that first night when you guys got to take the field in the new stadium with the fans there to cheer you guys on?
Well, I'll let you know coming up on the 26th, because we played several games there last year, but as you'll recall, we never were able to have full capacity. So it was awesome to be on that state-of-the-art surface. But it was a little surreal because there was like no band and there was very limited fans and stuff like that. So we really didn't get to experience the full Dragon Stadium yet. But the times that we did go out there, it was a lot of fun. I mean, just a beautiful place to go and watch a sporting event.
Who are some of the key players that you have coming back from last season? The guys that really got a chance to experience a winning culture for you? Who are some guys that you're expecting to make a big impact for you?
We're bringing back our top we're bringing back actually a lot of guys, but we're bringing back a couple of our top backs. We're bringing back our quarterback, Caleb Hall. We're bringing back fullback Tristan Hinckley, running back Devin Lawrence. These guys all played significant roles last year. We're bringing back our big tight end, Jacob Booth, who was an all-regional player. We're bringing back a couple of linebackers that we're really excited about, Ashton Kebke, Sean Shannock, Grayson Middleton. We've got a couple guys in the defensive secondary that are returning, Dawson Stebbins and Tyler Cole, our DBs that are returning for us, along with Cameron Spencer. So we've got guys with playing experience scattered throughout. And we're really excited to see if we can't get some development out of some younger guys that have been just right on the cusp. They've been maybe more depth players or role players, but now they're going to step into more serious roles for us. Guys like Teddy Henry, Kyle Pavlicek, Alex Hecht. We've seen quite a bit of depth. We're excited to return guys, but we know we got a lot of work to do to get our best football.
And with that, who are some of the newer guys that we're going to see on the Swartz Creek Dragon roster?
Well, we got guys coming up from the JVs like Kyle Pavlicek, who looks to make a strong impact. We're going to have a big stable of backs. Kind of after our top returning guys, we're going to have a stable of backs with Levi Lloyd and Keegan Larian and Evan Lloyd coming up from the JVs with a good experience. And all those guys are competing for spots, it's nice competition for playing time.
So with all that said, what are some of the expectations that you have for this upcoming season?
I think every coach in America has got similar expectations. We like to talk about our goals, but we also like to talk about our purpose. So we have a goal every week to go out and we take it 1 week at a time, and so our goal is to go out there and be on Thursday the 26th. But we also talk quite a bit about how the real opponent is typically the guy in the mirror. Our goal is to go out there and play our best football. And we feel like if we do that, then the result will take care of itself. If we have 11 guys doing their job 100% on every play, that's as good as we can do, right? And so we talk about that, about execution. And so that's our real goal, is to go out there and execute. But we also talk a lot about our purpose, which is totally different than football. We talk about the purpose being something different than winning and losing. It's about turning these young men into hopefully successful men in their future. And I think that's really our purpose. Go out there and do that. And the game of football is just a part of educational athletics. I hope I can turn these guys into successful humans, and the scores will then take care of themselves.
What is your approach to actually doing that? When you're talking to them about a purpose, how do you go about letting them know that what we're doing here, it's bigger than the game of football? We're really getting you set up for life.
Yeah, we just come right out with it. I mean, we try to talk, when we start or end practice or conditioning sessions, et cetera, we try to be very purposeful in the way we talk to them. And we say, this is our purpose. We want to create accountable people. We want to create people of integrity, people that have courage. Our strength coach, Greg, he does a great job of like when they're stretching, he talks to them and they have to repeat, the things that he says. And he always talks about, how they can accomplish their goals. And he practices a little bit of like self-talk with them, and reminds them, that they are capable of all these things and that they should love themselves. And it can be really powerful to see, when we get these players through the program and then you see them later. It always excites me to see guys that have gone through our program that have success out there in life. And I'd like to think that if you followed along with our daily talks and with our life lessons, that would be part of the foundation for success.
When you look at the roster and you look at the schedule that you have, what are some big challenges that you're going to be facing this year? Well,
there's challenges every single day in the game of football. But in terms of the schedule, you know, we've got we're not sure who we're playing in the crossover game yet, but we know we've got 8 tough opponents on there, and you know, we're not taking anybody for granted, that's for sure. I think one thing that we're trying to do is just make sure that we take care of our business. You know, we like to say it's all about us, that if we execute, then we'll be okay. And you know, there's a lot of good teams in this league. There's a lot of good teams in this region, and we're trying to be one of them. And you know, they've got to try to take care of their business, and we've got to try to take care of ours. And that's the mindset that we take. We like to talk a lot about how we play a nameless, faceless opponent, because we don't control the other squad. We control ourselves.
And, you know, I was just going to ask you about your first opponent, Carmen Ainsworth, and I know you just said that that's kind of a nameless opponent, but I did want to talk a little bit about this matchup to start the season, because you guys actually got a win over them to close out the regular season in 2020. This year you open up against them. You guys will be the home team for that game. So what are you hoping to accomplish with this first game of the season?
Well, you know, our goal is to be 1-0 on in this case Thursday night, but we always say Friday night, right? But you know what, our goal is to go out there and have success, but more specifically, we want to go out there and execute Swords Creek football. You know, there's 11 jobs that need to be done on every given play, and if we get 11 guys doing their job on every play, we know we're going to be successful, and that's the goal.
He is Coach Joe Spencer. Coach, it is always good to talk to you. Thanks for making the time for this big preview show. I appreciate it. I wish you and the Dragons all the best this season.
Thanks very much, Tyler, for all you do. And if you get a chance, come out and see the new stadium. It's beautiful.
I can't wait to see it, and I hope a lot of people get to go out there and be a part of it as well, because you got a great community out there in Swartz Creek, and I hope that they're going to fill that place for you every game that you guys are at home this season.
Yeah, we hope so. We're looking forward to it. It's going to be a fun year.
And on that note, we wrap up the high school football preview show. Thank you so much for listening to A Duff Said. Now, if you would like to follow the show or listen to past episodes and check out exclusive video content such as highlights, be sure to go to my website, aduffsaid.com. Well, that's all the damage I can do here. Until next time, this is Duff Tyler reminding you that if Duff said it, it must be true, because that's what a Duff said.